Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the Rutgers-Newark Small Business Development Center's After Lunch webinar series. I'm just checking to just make sure that everyone can hear me. Ginny, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. If everyone is on today's call, if you can hear me, please type yes. There's a chat box located to the left of your screen. If you can hear me, please indicate so by saying yes. Great. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Teresa. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So we have Robin. Okay, great. Great. Okay. Good. Bear with me 1 minute and we can get going. I still see there's quite a few people still trying to log into today's presentation. Let's just give it a few, wait about 30 seconds. I'm going to put this up for anyone who can't hear. I see some hands raised, so I just want to make sure everyone can hear. If you can't hear today's audio, you can call in, and the information is on the screen. Okay, so we're going to get started. It's 2:02 again. Happy New Year and welcome to the Rutgers-Newark Small Business Development Center's After Lunch webinar series. My name is Priscilla Liebert-Calder, and today's webinar is called the NJ State Certification and Private Contracting webinar. It's been presented by one of our counselors, Ginny Rock-Bailey from Rock-Bailey Enterprises, Inc. And this webinar is an overview of the certification process and the documentation that's required. It is, again, an overview of our full-day workshop, which will be next week, Thursday. That's January 17th, here at our center from 9 to 4. That workshop also will be facilitated by John Cronin, who is the certification auditor for the state of New Jersey. That means he's the person that answers yay or nay when you submit your SBE, your WB or MBE applications. And so it's a great opportunity to get your questions in front of the decision makers to ensure that you have all your documentation completed and ready. That way you can ensure that you are accepted and you receive those certifications. Through the presentation, feel free to ask questions using the chat box. Unfortunately, due to the number of persons on today's call, we can't open up the line, so everyone is muted. So if you have a question, please type it in the chat box. We'll do our best to answer those questions whether during or at the end of the presentation. And for those of you who are attending today, you will receive a PDF copy of today's presentation. So don't worry. I know a lot of people usually ask for that. So at the end of today's webinar, you'll receive a copy of that, as well as a link to register for the upcoming workshop again, which is going to be on January 17th, which is next week, Thursday. So without further ado, I will turn today's presentation over to Jeannie.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. I hope everyone can hear me. There's some background.
We can.
Okay, just mention in the box in our chat box if you can't hear me or not. But I too would like to welcome you to our first presentation of the year, and it is on certifications and registrations for small businesses, minority women-owned businesses, and how exciting it is for me to present this at this time because, like Priscilla said, on the 17th, I will have the opportunity to work with John Cronin, who is our auditor for the state on our programs. And we have a very good relationship with him, and it's a benefit to our clients at the center to be able to have him talk to the participants that attend these sessions so you can get firsthand knowledge of how the state views your applications and the kind of information that they're looking for. Today, again, I will be presenting a summary of credentials that are needed, the intent and goals of these certifications and registrations for your information, and hopefully this will allow you to make the decisions that you need to make to participate in this process in the state. So I'd like to focus on the three main areas of my presentation today. And one is the small business enterprise registration, which you'll see is different than a certification, but this is an entree for all small businesses to participate in activities, procurement activities in the state of New Jersey. The second is the veterans registrations, veterans-owned business and disabled veterans-owned business. Again, it is not a certification, but it allows veterans who are in these two categories to become more competitive in this process because of the contributions that they've made as veterans. And the third certification, and the only certification that we will be talking about today, is the one that most participants are interested in. And this is the Minority Women Business Enterprise Certification, which we've saved for last because it requires a lot more information and it usually generates more discussion. So let's get started. Go back one. The registration and certifications, major differences, but registrations are valuable tools that allow businesses to market market to the state and to market your business through something called NJ SBE, which is a marketing tool that small business enterprises, disabled veterans and veteran-owned businesses, and MWBEs participate in once they become certified or registered as a minority or women-owned business or a small business. It really ensures that the businesses participate in business projects in the state, and also it is an introduction and an invitation for private contractors to see what businesses have been vetted by the state of New Jersey, regardless of what registration or certification you apply for. So again, the goal of this session is to provide you with the information and the requirements that will allow you to compete if you get a certification or registration. So for the small business enterprise registration, I'm leaving this information on the screen, but I've been doing it for so long, so I just want to really summarize and capsulize the intent of this registration. It's intended for all small businesses, that's 100 employees and less. The businesses are categorized in here, it's categorized into 3 gross revenue categories, which will allow the state to see where you fit in as a small business, and it also allows them to focus in on the best opportunities for you when you bid on a contract, if you decide to bid on the contract. The beauty of the SBE, it really is the only registration and or certification in the state that has a set-aside program. The MWBE had a set-aside program in the past, but based on a court decision, that was rescinded, but it looks like it may be reestablished. But the benefit of the small business enterprise registration is that it actually allows you to participate in the bidding process once you go into a state site like NJ First, other RFP designated opportunities that you think are good for you. If you have an SBE, you can actually participate in this bidding process. The requirements for all of our registration and certifications are basically the same. I include them because it's significant for those participants who are just interested in a registration or a certification, but important because it's uniform. You must be independently owned and operated as a small business to participate in this program. The management is responsible for both its daily and long-term operations. Basically what it's saying is, as a small business owner, if you have a partner and the partner does not have 50% ownership, the person who applies for this certification has to have more invested in the business than 50%. They have to have 51% interest, and they have to prove that they manage the daily and long-term operations. What I also think is important about all of these certifications, but in particular to the SBA, because it is not designated by your veteran status or your gender or ethnicity status, is because it allows business owners to be more thoughtful and more involved about how they run their business. Because one thing that the state is interested in is that the person who applies for these certifications and registrations has total ownership and accountability of how the business is run. And if there is a doubt, the state will definitely ask the owner and or ask me, if you're a registered participant in our center, they'll ask me more about you and the ownership that you have in your business. Again, it's 51% interest in the business. You must do business and be incorporated or registered in the state of New Jersey and have its principal place of business in the state of New Jersey. Now, this is very interesting because in order for you to participate in another state, the state is going to ask you, that other state, New York, Pennsylvania, Georgia, they're going to ask you if you are registered as a minority, a small business enterprise in your own state. And so often clients feel that they can just register their business and then go to another state and participate in their SBE or other certification registration programs. You've got to be registered in the state of New Jersey. You have to have 51% or more owner of your employees that work in the state of New Jersey and are supported by the New Jersey unemployment taxes. But just as an aside, New Jersey is not going to allow you to get away with not paying taxes as a business owner, and if you have business concerns in another state. And this is one of the reasons why they're so focused on us as representatives of these programs, making sure that you understand that it's very important for you to be registered in the state of New Jersey and have your principal place of business, as the applications on all of these certifications and registrations will ask you, where is your principal place of business and where is your mailing address? They want to make this distinction. 51% or more of your business operations and activities must also occur in the state of New Jersey, and they're supported by income in our business tax returns. The business can be a sole proprietorship, a partnership, or a corporation. So regardless of your designation, you can apply for the SBE, your organizational designation. How can you do this? A number of my clients apply online. It's a very simple process. What I tell them is have all of your documentation available to you before you apply. It's hard to get a hard copy of an application for the SBE, but we have them at our office, and participants that are active in our program on the 17th will also get a hard copy. Why I mention the hard copy is a hard copy ask for 99% of the information that the online registration requires. So if you complete the hard copy first and then go online and submit an online version of the application for an SBE, if you are accepted, you will get your certification almost immediately, as opposed to submitting a hard application into the state. It could take anywhere 4 to 6 weeks to get an SBE registration certificate. So there are many benefits to applying online. But if you don't have your documentations available, like many online applications, the time runs out. You have to start all over again. And in some instances, it's been difficult for my clients to recap that information. So they basically have to start all over again with the application process. So that's why I suggest that clients complete the hard copy, apply online, or reach out to your business advisor. Hopefully you're with our center, and that will be me, and I can provide you with the information to make sure that you're successful in completing the application. The registration cost, this is the process that you have to go through if you register online. You have to have a login account. You have to have your business registration certificate available. You'll not be able to access the BRC and ID information at that time. That's why it's so important for you to have your certificate available, and recognize that on your certificate there is a certificate number and there's also a sequence number. Often clients get confused with both, and the system will not allow you to go ahead unless you submit the right number. When your application is completed, if it is a hard copy, it must be notarized. And then you will submit a $100 check or money order for this and send it to this address. And during our session on the 17th, I also recommend for all of these registrations and certification submissions that you send them overnight to make sure that it expedites the process to a certain extent. But what it ensures is that your application gets on the desk of the first phase of a 3-phase auditing process, as opposed to mailing it in regular U.S. mail, and it takes longer for the actual application to get to the auditor. The online process, similar steps. They ask you the same questions. You have to have your NAICS codes and your construction codes available, and you can pay by a credit card or a money order. But it's very important that once you start this process online, that you have all the documents you need. And I might add also, on the online version, if you are not sure that you are submitting the information that they're requesting, you're not sure of if your BRC is up to date, you're not sure if the codes that you want to include are up to date, it is better to back out of the online process and contact your business representative, contact us at the Rutgers-SBDC instead of being rejected. You do not want to be rejected because it can take up to a year to submit your application. And so often clients, because this is for the general small business enterprise clients, so often they want these SBEs to participate in a bidding process, or they've been identified by a prime contractor to work on a contract with them. So you don't want to take the chance of being rejected because you weren't sure of some information. The price, again, is $100. the SBE is for 3 years, and you renew, you re-verify information about your business at the end of each year. And there is no cost for that, and the state will send you a reminder that it's time to renew your SBE application. If there are any questions, please feel to put them in the chat, and I will get to them when I can. Okay, so the next one is a veteran-owned business. Who qualifies? Persons who've served in active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces, Air Forces, Marines, Coast Guards, et cetera, They are discharged in good standing. I've got to make note of that. And that, just from, and John may talk about this on the 17th, that may also be tweaked at some point in regards to the categories of which veterans are accepted or disqualified because of requests from veterans and also things that are going on in our country. So the registration requirements are basically the same. The veteran is the applicant. They must, the business must be independently owned and operated, and the veteran must have 51% ownership. We've had situations where veterans have wanted to have a member of their family, their spouse, be the prime for it, regardless of what the reason is. They felt that since they were a veteran and they were working with their partner should have 50% ownership. The state won't budge on this 51%. The state requires at least 51% ownership for all of the registrations and certifications, regardless of the relationship. They want to make sure that the applicant has control and operates the business. You must provide at least one construction-related industry or non-construction-related industry code. And what's interesting about this is that the application will allow you a download section where you can identify the code that best suits your business. I also, in working with my clients, will get the code, help them get the codes. We separate them and put them in a separate file so they can relate to these codes when clients are developing their capabilities codes. These codes are also very good, and they come up over and over again if you're going to be an active participant. The principal owner must provide a copy of their federal DD-214 indicating that it was an honorable discharge or release under honorable circumstances. A New Jersey registration application can be secured by the link that will be provided to you when the presentation is sent. However, you cannot complete this application online. They will provide you with a hard copy. For a number of reasons, they do not allow applicants to complete a VOB or a DVOB or an MWBE application online. The next step is you complete the application, sign, date it, also have it notarized, and submit your DD-214 form, and submit a non-refundable money order or check for $100. The verification process is the same. On the application, you verify and attest to the fact that the information that you are providing is the best to your ability. And the verification is also used when your year is up to attest that there either have been no changes or there have been changes to your business, which you will provide to them. The SBE and the VOB will also allow you to be included in the state New Jersey Savvy database, which has been so helpful to a number of my clients because they see who their competitors are, and many of them have been identified by Prime to engage in conversations about doing business with them because they found them in the New Jersey Savvy database. The disabled veteran-owned business, the criteria are basically the same in terms of who's eligible. The principal owner must provide a copy of their Federal Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Business Determination Letter, and that's issued by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. And they also must provide a copy. If I'm not mistaken, I know mine have also provided a copy of their DD-214, but you must have a letter saying that you are disabled to participate in this section of in this opportunity with the state. The registration procedures are the same. You sign, date, and notarize your hard copy because that's the only application that they will submit. You will provide them with the check or money order for $100, which is non-refundable, regardless of what the rationale for you to the state would be. If you were determined to be ineligible, the $100 is non-refundable. And I say that because applicants often feel, well, if I didn't get it, I should get my money back. The state is saying that it's non-refundable. And I have to say, and John will attest to this when he comes, that I have found the state to be very open to delays because of reasons applicants have given them for not being able to complete an application, but it will not be months. But I have found them to be open based on situations in one's business to extending it, prolonging it, or just closing it and not rejecting an applicant because they did not provide the information that was needed. And that's not in every case, but I find them to be very open to business owners because their intent is to allow you, want you to participate in the many activities that the state has for designated SBEs, veteran-owned businesses, and disabled-owned businesses. Now, for the minority and or women-owned business enterprise certification, again, this is the most attractive certification that most businesses who are eligible want to participate in because there are a number of benefits by being certified as an MWBE. Regardless of whether you want to participate in state activities or not, state procurement activities or not, the benefits of having this certificate outweigh in many opportunities and in many situations those businesses that don't have the MWBE. And so many people ask why. One of the main reasons is primes and contractors who are interested in doing business with minority or women-owned businesses or other categories that are discussed want to ensure that those businesses are vetted. They want to make sure that and it's not just preliminary vetting, it's in-depth vetting of those businesses have been taken care of by the state. So when it comes to them engaging in conversations about doing business with their companies, they can eliminate a lot of that from their introductory engagements with a SBE or VOB or MWBE, and they can get right into the heart of the skills, tasks, and responsibilities that they're looking for in their client. So that's one major reason why small businesses want to be certified, especially as an MWBE. here I give you the examples of the definitions. And again, it's a little redundant in terms of the percentage, but you have to be defined as a minority-owned or women-owned business. And what the state does is that when you complete your application, it has categories that are deemed minorities, and you select one of the categories. We've had instances where people felt that they were business owners felt that they were a minority, and felt that it was based on how they looked. And the state said, because of other reasons, that you are not determined to be a minority, and it has to fit into these categories. So they're very particular about the definitions, and it's one of those instances that I have not seen the state move on. They have not strayed away from their definition of minority. The minority or women-owned business has to, again, be 51% independently owned and managed. In regards to women-owned businesses, women in, I would say, non-traditional companies that own non-traditional companies have got to ensure that they are active participants in their businesses. And John goes into this a little bit more during our session, but it's important for you to know that years ago there were women that would pose as being 51% ownership, but when grilled on the specificities of doing their business, they couldn't do it. So the state determined that they were being used by another entity to get this certification. So I know, because of some of my clients that are in, I would say, non-traditional businesses for women, I briefed them on the kinds of questions that the state would ask them if they were chosen for an interview. So it's not to say that you could just put a secretary and office manager up as the face of this business and 51% ownership without them being able to articulate the details of how they run this business. So I offer that to everyone out there so you can see how diligent the state is maintaining a sense of ethics to this process, because for so many it is grueling to go through these applications and provide the documents that the state requires. The state has also encouraged for minority and women-owned businesses to participate in this program because they want to ensure that every effort is given to qualified minority and women-owned businesses to participate in these opportunities. It has been interesting for me to see how businesses have flourished once they've gotten these certifications and once they've used this opportunity to increase and expand their networking and include their certifications, regardless of what they are, on their PR information. It actually allows them entree into opportunities and organizations that they believe that they would not have had they not gone through this process. So again, the business and applicant has to be independently owned and operated. And I say both because so many sole proprietors feel as if because they're not bigger or deemed to be home-based, that they can't participate in these programs. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. That is just not true. I have a number of sole proprietors that are participating in this program and that have gotten their certification. Again, the management responsibility for both its daily and long-term operations has to be on the part of the applicant of the business. And it's more crucial with this because the stakes may be higher for the applicant to be in a position to discuss the details of how their business is managed and operated. Even if it's a partnership and a partner is responsible for the operations and another is responsible for management, the applicant that is attesting that they have 51% ownership has got to be in a position to explain the management and the operation. Again, the business must be incorporated in the state of New Jersey, and 51% or more of its employees must work in the state of New Jersey. Again, it doesn't matter what the organizational designation of the business is, whether it's a sole proprietor, a limited liability corporation, sole, single, or partnership, or a corporation. You can participate in this. And I also want to add at this point the level of detail that the state goes into for this application. And during our, I'm doing these shameless plugs for the 17th only because I see the benefit that it has for our businesses. But I'm just going to give you a snippet of some of the things that we go through, which I normally haven't done during these webinars, but I think it's important. There are documents that that all applicants for this particular certification have to have available, especially if you're a corporation. You've got to have your certificate of formation, your articles of incorporation, a limited partnership agreement, an operating agreement regarding your designation. You've got to have a resume. And the resume is a little different. We go into what kinds of details one would be looking for in that resume, but suffice it to say, I can tell you that this would be a resume that speaks to the kinds of clients that you're looking for as opposed to the businesses that you've worked with. You have to have your taxes or an explanation of why you don't have taxes. And I've written many explanations and have definitely provided the profit and loss statements and balance sheets to allow the state to see that these records are being kept, but for other reasons, clients may not have the number of years of taxes that the state's looking for. Not all of them have been accepted, but some have. And as your representative, I'm really excited about those that have been accepted. They're looking for documentation that supports who you say you are. That could be a driver's license, that could be a passport, that could be birth certificate, and based on other information that the state is looking for, I will direct you to what I think is the best or the only documentation that I feel that they will accept. I can't stress enough with this particular application the need for the applicant to really have total control over their business, especially the documentation that speak to the financials of your business. And these are documents that all applicants are asked to submit in terms of finances, whether it's your taxes or a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet. And what I have found to be true with, I'd say 99% of the clients that I represent, is that they are so grateful that they went through this exercise because it also allows them to see where their money's going and where they can tighten up or how they can increase in certain areas to build up their business. And if it's a sole proprietorship who feels that, my goodness, I have this home-based business, and so often it's an offshoot of what I did, it allows businesses to expand their thoughts, even if it's just horizons and business strategies of where you want to be. And I think that one of the rewards of going through this process in particular is that it allows you to see that what you started and where you want to go is possible because of the diligence that's required to provide this information and to get your business in order. Now, I want to see all of my clients get this, all of the ones who want them. I want to see them get this. But if their documentation don't pass my smell test, then I can't say don't submit it, but I would strongly recommend that you wait. Wait. Don't be rejected and have to wait a year to get the certificate, because it's to your advantage to get all the documents together and have them acceptable than have to tell a potential prime contractor or a potential corporation that wants to do business with you that you have to wait a year. It's better to just take that extra moment to look at your documents and see if they are what the state wants. One thing that just jumps out at me at this point is so often we don't think about, especially smaller businesses, don't think about the need to identify and paying rent to yourself, if it is your business, to identify what that would look like if you have to go out on your own. And one of the documents in this application is a lease, some kind of rental agreement. And most of the businesses, if not all of them, would have to provide that document. And so often clients are so taken aback by this because they haven't included that in their daily, monthly, weekly expenses. So those are just a few items that I wanted to share with you that I thought was important if you were thinking about going for this particular certification, because the SBE and the veteran-owned business and the disabled veteran-owned business, because their registrations don't ask for this level of detail. And why start this if you cannot finish it to the point where you can see this, you can actually live the advantages of having this certificate? And I look at the advantages. I always look at the advantages and challenges as opposed to weaknesses. But I would rather have clients strive to get this and see and present to clients the benefits in having this certification than having you wait and sit on the side to see how other companies have benefited from it. And you can build up to it. If you don't have all the documents right away, the clock doesn't start ticking on you getting this certification until you submit the application. So you have time, not a lifetime, because you've got to show that you've generated revenue, first of all. So I try to ensure that my clients see that that revenue should be generated during the year that we apply for this. But more importantly, it's incumbent for you as the business owner to see if you really need this certification in your business, if you will market the certification as your business owner, and what you can really do with it. Because, again, it is an arduous task. If your records are not together, and by no means am I trying to scare anyone from not doing this, I just want to present the realities and the importance of you having the documents that the state is requiring you to submit so you can actively participate in this opportunity. please, any questions, I am so open for them, because this is, doing these registrations and certifications are really my passion. I know that for this, just as from a conversational standpoint, I know that on this particular application, on the verification form, if any of you are looking at them, so often the applications are sent back because the attention to detail was not given to the fact that the applicant has got to sign that last page in 2 sections. So from my perspective, it's always good to take the client through the application before they complete it, so they see how intentional our office is for them to get this certification. But it's also a good exercise for the business owner to see that you have to read everything. The application speaks to titles that are not generally the titles of the business owner, but through our counsel and through our experience, we're able to give you the title that the state is looking for, and so often the business owner has adopted that title for their business. There is a seriousness that the state is expecting in their applicants for this particular application, of course, all of them, and when it's seen and so appreciated by the state, then other kinds of relationships can be formed. The state is not your enemy in this. As a matter of fact, for our center, the state is our friend. We can call on the state when we have a question. And during this briefing on the 17th, so often John brings information to us, to this group, that is not out in the public venue, but coming, especially when it comes to veterans. And changes that the governor may be interested in making. But besides all that, my point for being so detailed in this is to allow you to just think about the seriousness of these activities and how serious you want to be about using them to enhance and expand your business. Now, for this particular application, but I think in many applications that you want to complete, I encourage my client to put a not applicable in those questions that are not applicable, because you do not want the state or the viewer of any application to determine that you overlooked it. So it's really important for you to put in an A there if it's not germane to your business. And that also indicates what's even more important, that questions that were germane to your business were answered, because if particular questions or the state determines that the application was incomplete, it will be returned. Now, if an application is returned, it doesn't mean that you're kicked out of the process. It means that you're given 30 days to correct whatever was missing or whatever was misunderstood by the auditor. And so that's a good thing. But as a member of our center, what I try to do for all of my applicants is track the applications so I know when they arrive and I can keep the client up to date on the process that it has to go through and the stage of its application. And this is just a service that we provide because we want you to be successful. And also, we also want to stay on top of the process that the state uses to ensure that we don't miss a step. And that if your application is rejected for any reason at all, I want to be in a position to discuss with the applicant as well as the state on what we could have done differently. I can't say that I've had an application rejected yet, and I really don't want one, but I know that I want to be in the loop for our clients to understand where their application is. And so in order to do that, I have to have this working relationship with the state so that you have faith in our center. Because, again, you don't want your application rejected, but if it is, we want to make sure that you have an action plan to complete what the reason was or what document was submitted that was not accepted. You want to have an action plan so you can go back and submit the application after your year. Another item that I wanted to mention to you is that for those applicants who have a pending opportunity that is waiting for your certification, the application itself can be expedited if you attach that document that confirms that a client or a state department or government entity is waiting for that application. We can expedite that application for you. And I think that's important because, again, we want to make sure that you make money and that that you're not overlooked as someone who is pending the application. So I'm just going to go through this last part, and I'm going to answer a question if I can. So again, answer all the questions on the application. For a list of the standards for eligibility and to obtain an application, again, you are going to get this presentation. The link is there. Pull up the application. There are drop-down entities on the application that will allow you to include your codes. On this particular application, they're not asking you for NACE codes because it's not a national application. They're asking you for state construction codes, or non-construction codes, and the New Jersey, it's the NJIP codes for the state of New Jersey, which I find very interesting for clients because after the clients go through this process, they see that they are not advertising services that they're doing because they really didn't see the significance. But once they see a code attached to that, then they add that on to their NJIP codes, they add it onto their capability statements, they add it onto their website, any kind of advertising that will allow a potential client to see the vast array of codes and or services that you offer. So we're going to provide this PowerPoint to you. You can access the link to get these applications and participate. Again, you've got to complete the application. You can notarize it. It's $100. This is where the redundancy comes in, but it's important, and that is non-refundable. It can be paid with a check or money order. So often I push it. I want the state to see, and some of my colleagues laugh at this, but I want the state to see that my client actually does have a checking account, even though you have to produce a letter from the bank saying that you have an account, a business account at a bank. I like it to take it that extra step for them to pay for this with their business check. But then I also know some other things. And I'm like, okay, if it's a money order, then that's what we're submitting. So I also want you to see the flexibility when I can be flexible. I am, because I listen to my clients and I know what will work and what won't. And so if the state allows a money order, then we're sending in a money order. And I don't really press it unless I think it's going to hurt the overall application. We have a question. I went through the site and did a hard copy, so I'm a bit nervous. I recently just received approval for certification. I'm a startup with 22 years in the field. Would that be a rejection? Should I call the office as a follow-up? I don't think any experience. If I'm reading this right, Teresa, 22 years experience, 5 years experience, the way this world is ticking, knowledge and experience about your business is not a rejection. But what I would suggest you do is call the office and ask to speak with me, and we could go in a little bit more detail. Yes, you can have a person helping you complete. This is to all of you. If you're in our catchment area, I can help you, but I can certainly answer a question for you once you get this PowerPoint presentation. I know that I can only assist those businesses that are in our area, but I can answer a question for you to allow you to go to your designated SBDC office and be specific about what you want. I can do that for you. And I hope I'm providing the information that so many of you need to make a decision about participating in this activity, and also, more importantly, make the decision if it fits into your business goals. Every business doesn't need to be certified, but so often those that do aren't. So I want to make sure that I provide that kind of information for you so you can make that kind of decision. I would consider, I'm just sharing this with you, that in the notary process, I would consider using a notary at a bank. Even though local notaries are fine, I would just consider using your bank notary for a variety of reasons. So often if you have an account there, it's free. They do keep records of it. So if there's something else, like a copy of something that you needed and you didn't have for a variety of reasons, you could go back to them and get that verification form. And just an aside on record keeping, I would advise you to have a separate file on certifications in your system that has copies of everything you give me or whoever you're participating with or using, so that in 2 years you can start looking at, let's say 2.5 years, you can start looking at what it's going to take for you to renew the documents that you submitted in 2019. Because it's very difficult for so many clients to find that application. I try to keep an application, a copy of the application on my clients, but just in general. But for you, it is so important for you to have these documents available to you in the event that you want to take the next step. You may want to apply for a federal certification or registration or some other kind of designation that the feds have. And so why reinvent the wheel? You have a lot of the information that they're looking for. So, and this document will also give you links to your NACE codes, your commodity codes, your industry craft codes, and your non-construction related codes, your NIGP. I said NGPI, it's NIGP codes. And again, what I recommend to my clients is the codes that you identify for your business through these classifications. Keep them in a separate file. Keep them in your certification file because they're going to be in your application. But keep them keep them in a separate file So you can determine what would be your primary codes and your secondary codes. You may not want to list all of them on your capability statement. You may only want to list your primary codes. So you want to make sure that they're filed away, because I can assure you that you'll need them again. And so often my clients have these codes on their smartphones because if they're conversation pieces, I know, conversation pieces, but they are in some networking events, especially if you become more focused on how you're going to network. They become topics for you to share with a potential client on the kinds of businesses that you're looking for and the kind of services that you offered. So this is kind of the sad part of my webinar, and I love doing this, but I want to make sure that I answered all the questions that you had and covered all of the details of the SBE, the VOB, and the DVOB and MWBE, because it's really important. I also want to again reiterate that it's so important for you to sign the application and sign the verification pages. And on your registration, the verification page is on the second page of your application, because they're not asking for the documents, the number of documents that the MWBE is asking for. However, if you submit a hard copy SBE, you do, I think you still have to provide a copy of your VRC. But if you do it online, you don't. That you notarize your documents, and that you ensure that all your questions were answered, and that you submitted to the best of your ability. And even if you do not have if you're not part of a center, or if I'm not your small business consultant, have someone in your business review your application before you submit it. That's a fresh set of eyes for you. And again, there's too much at stake for all of these applications and certifications for you to not get the benefit of the doubt of being selected to participate in this effort. So how long is the SBE registration or MWE certification last? It's 3 years. How much is the registration? What's the cost involved? It's $100, non-refundable, for each registration and certification. Yes, you have to submit an annual verification form. If you don't submit your annual verification, you will be eliminated from the program, and you have to start all over again. Is there a fee for filing the annual documents? No, there isn't. There is no fee. And so that's a good thing, because I remember a time, and it just could be foggy on my part, where I thought there was $100, and I thought what a cost that was to small business owners. But there isn't a fee for submitting your annual verifications. But remember, if you don't submit them, you will be kicked out of the program. And why? For just not completing a document. And they will send you an email alert for your SBE, veterans, and MWBE. You can also apply for the SBE and the MWBE. And if you're a veteran, you can apply for all of them, which I strongly suggest, but I suggest that veterans apply for their veterans application first, so you can start working, because New Jersey is a big veteran, big supporter of veteran small business owners. So to that end, my hope is that you have a very profitable 2019, and that it's filled with the reach of all your goals, and participation in state opportunities and local opportunities. My name is Jenny Rock Bailey. I own a full-fledged human resources consulting firm with a preference in designing and maintaining infrastructures and for small businesses, and ensuring that those small businesses that are trying to reach their goals with their management and human resources also reach their goals in regards to certification and registration. Are there any questions? I have any little. If not, thanks so much for participating in this webinar. And I hope to see many of you on the 17th. I thank the Rutgers-Newark SBDC for this opportunity to share this information because it's so needed. So I'm going to leave this up here, and I wish you all a good day.